If you want to be successful as an entrepreneur and in life, you need to be proactive. I'm about to go do a probate today here in Henderson, Texas. And, this probate actually could have been avoided through proper estate planning and being proactive. Uh, I've gotten a lot of examples here recently. Today, I'm going to go over probably three about how being proactive could avoid a bad situation or a situation, again, that could just be completely avoided. My name's Anthony Brister. This is the Wealth Planning Podcast with Brister Law. Today, we're going to talk about being proactive. We're going to talk about really three subjects, maybe four if I feel like touching on it. First one is being proactive with your estate planning. Again, probate is optional. Through proper estate planning, you can avoid probate when you pass away. Second one is asset protection. If you want to protect your assets, you have to be proactive. When a lawsuit is going on or bad things are already happening, it's probably too late to try to protect your assets. And then lastly is tax planning. It's almost 10/15 here, October 15th. That's the deadline for personal returns. I'm still getting people coming to me asking me if I could do their taxes. And unfortunately, one, we are pretty much at capacity, but then two, um, there's no time to do tax planning. And a lot of these people who are coming in late really are not organized, and they've missed out on a lot of deductions uh, by just not being proactive. If we would have been proactive, we probably could have saved them thousands of dollars. So let's talk about estate planning. Like I said, probate is optional in almost all cases. Um, and the way you can avoid probate is by having a revocable living trust. If you have a will, or if you don't have a will and you haven't done proper estate planning, you're guaranteed to go through probate if you've got probatable assets. By having a revocable living trust and funding it properly, your heirs can avoid probate. They don't have to go to court when you pass away. They'll be able to continue on with your affairs and distribute assets according to your trust. Probate can take up time. Either people try to get through with it pretty close after your passing. It still can be painful having to kind of go through all of that. Or they put it off until the very last moment and kind of prevents that closure from happening too. By having a trust, we don't have to go through that process. Fairly simple. Talk to an estate planning attorney. Get a revocable living trust. Make sure that you fund it properly and make sure they talk to you about how to fund your trust. But by doing that, you can avoid the pitfall of going through probate. Next up that I wanted to talk about really was the asset protection. I had a potential client come to me a couple of weeks ago, and they signed a personal guarantee on a bunch of contracts. They had an LLC, but one thing led to another. They got into a bad deal. They lost a bunch of money. Contract didn't go through, and they had a bunch of debts that they couldn't pay. He's since shut down that operation. They've got a different business under a different LLC, which he owns 100%. That actually is fairly successful, but he's scared that because he's got this personal guarantee, that they're going to be able to come after other assets and potentially his business. So he asked me, "Can we put this in a trust?" Or he came to me and telling me that he wanted to put this in a trust to protect his assets, and what else was there that he could do? Well, unfortunately, when you've got a pending lawsuit, or if you sign a personal guarantee and you expect a lawsuit, moving assets around generally is not a good idea to protect yourself from that impending lawsuit or to try to avoid a personal guarantee. There's something called fraudulent transfer. So if a court sees that you formed an irrevocable trust after failing on some debts, um, or after there's been a lawsuit, something like that, the court's not going to respect that trust, and typically they'll deem it as a fraudulent transfer and allow that creditor to have access to those assets. Same thing with an LLC or any type of business as well too. Again, moving it after the fact, the court's not going to respect that because you're doing that for the sole purpose of avoiding that debt and not paying that creditor that. So again, a court's just not going to respect that. However, with proper estate plan or asset protection and planning, if you were proactive about it, think about this before, you can potentially protect yourself from some of those types of um, mistakes, personal guarantees, or lawsuits. Um, so going forward, we can definitely protect his assets from any other additional claims. But for these claims that are already out there, we can't do too much besides, try to work it out, negotiate. Secondly, he got this idea of putting everything in an irrevocable trust. 99% of people do not need an irrevocable trust. There's other ways that you can have asset protection. The problem with using an irrevocable trust is once you put something in there and once you set those terms, an irrevocable trust typically cannot be changed. And you lose control over that. Most people want to retain control over their assets. Also, irrevocable trust, generally are not going to be the most tax effective vehicle for you. Irrevocable trust can be a good tool, especially for the high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals for advanced estate planning purposes. But for asset protection, for most people, the irrevocable trust isn't going to be the best option for you. You want flexibility over how you direct the assets, and you want to be able to retain control over those assets too. And most times people want tax efficiency. Um, Nobody likes paying taxes. So by just putting something in irrevocable trust, potentially you are moving up in tax brackets as an ordinary taxpayer or a small business owner. And then you're also giving away control and flexibility over that. So I've got other videos on asset protection. And if you want to know what kind of asset protection is best for you, book a free discovery call at bristertaxlaw.com, and we can have a comprehensive consult, go over asset protection strategies. But don't put yourself in an irrevocable trust unless you're over 10, 15, 20 million net worth. And even then, there's some other options that you should consider before putting it in an irrevocable trust. Unless maybe we're talking about life insurance. And that's an easy way to get that out of your estate. Lastly, this is very relevant to me. I've done a lot of tax returns this year. I'm working on my processes. Hopefully, I won't have to do as many, but every single year, I get people straggling in on the deadline saying, "Hey, can you do my taxes? Um, Most of these people are not organized, and they just kind of throw it on you and say, here's what I've got. And, they want you to figure it out within a week. Your tax preparer, especially at this time of the year and this close to a deadline, does not have time to, one, be strategic, and also they've got tons and tons of tax returns to do. They don't have the time to reach out to you, do tax planning, nor are they getting paid to do that. So uh, I've just gotten two cases here recently of two different people making $60,000 from 1099s, all within a week. That was their sole income. They didn't have any deductions. They didn't really know. When I asked them about it, they said, I don't know what qualifies. Um, they didn't have any type of records, any type of separate bank accounts for their businesses. They just got this 1099. So, without any substantiation, um, really they're paying taxes on this full amount. When you've got a 1099 of 60,000, almost always you're going to be able to get some deductions. I mean, just off the top of my head, I was like, well, what about your cell phone? What about, home office? Are you using your home office? Do you have to drive for your business? Vehicle mileage? Did you go on any type of work related travel? Right? There's so many different things that if these guys would have been proactive and scheduled a tax planning meeting, paid a couple $100, we probably could have saved them thousands of dollars. But right now, as it sits without any deductions on 60,000, they're paying 15.3% on all of their earnings because this 1099 went straight to their Schedule C. So they're paying the self-employment tax, and then they're paying also the federal income tax rate on all of those earnings, when realistically there's probably some deductions out there, but they're not able to substantiate it, and we're coming up on the deadline, so they just want to get the return filed and pay the tax. Uh, Again, the theme here is be proactive, especially as a business owner. Especially when you're thinking about creating wealth, financial planning, all of that, right? Even thinking about retirement. Hopefully, you're just not putting some money away and hoping that you'll be able to retire. You need to be proactive, think about what you're doing, no matter what it is, and really to be successful, be proactive, plan, and then stick to that plan, and then regularly think about that plan. Not only in the estate planning, asset protection, or tax planning, but really in all aspects of your life. If you're proactive, think about a plan, execute the plan, and then adjust as you're going, you're going to come out a lot further ahead. Again, my name is Anthony Brister. This is the Wealth Planning Podcast with Brister Law. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, follow, whichever platform you're on. Um, we offer, if you have an LLC, a LLC checklist. You can go to my website to get that. It's for free at www.bristertaxlaw.com. Also, if you want to discuss any of these areas, if you feel like you're lacking on tax planning, you feel like you're overpaying in taxes, book a discovery call with us. If you're staying up at night, if you're worried that your assets are protected, that you've worked so hard for, book a free discovery call today, and we can talk about all of those issues